The moment you stop chasing approval, something quiet but undeniable shifts, not in her words, but in her posture, her timing, the way the room suddenly feels steadier around you. You don't announce this change. You don't try to be seen. You simply remove the pressure. And what replaces it is composure. That composure alters how you speak, how you pause, how you hold silence without needing to fill it. And long before anyone can explain it, people, especially women, begin to respond differently. Most men never notice this because they're too busy managing reactions instead of mastering themselves. But once you feel the difference, you can't unfeel it. It's not confidence. It's not indifference. It's control, internal, quiet, grounded. If this kind of clarity matters to you, take a second to support it. Like, subscribe, leave a comment so more men who need this perspective can find it. And don't move, because what's really driving this shift and why it changes everything comes next. You remember the old version of yourself without trying to. He was always slightly ahead of the moment, leaning forward, anticipating responses before they arrived. His attention reached outward before it settled inward. He spoke as if each sentence needed permission to exist. Not weak, just exposed. Now something is different. You enter a room and you don't scan it for confirmation. You let it come to you. The air meets your chest and stays there. Your shoulders don't rise. Your jaw stays loose. When someone speaks, you listen without rehearsing your reply. When silence appears, you don't rush to rescue it. You let it stand, unafraid of what it might reveal. This is where the shift begins, not as an idea, but as a posture. There's a scene that plays out quietly, the kind most men miss. You're standing across from her, nothing dramatic between you, no tension on the surface, and yet her question's slow. Her laughter lands a half-second later than before. She tilts her head as if listening for something beneath your words. She isn't measuring you anymore. She's orienting around you. You didn't do anything to her. You stopped doing something to yourself. Power, when it's real, doesn't chase, it calibrates. It waits, it chooses when to move. You begin to notice how differently time behaves around you. Conversations stretch instead of collapse. People finish their thoughts when you're present. Interruptions decrease. Even disagreements lose their sharp edges, not because you soften, but because you don't flinch. Your stillness absorbs the impact. Your restraint becomes a boundary no one announced, yet everyone respects. There's a parable you never heard but somehow understand now. A man once carried water in a cracked vessel, always leaking, always compensating, always hurrying to refill what he lost. Another carried a sealed jar. He walked slower. People noticed him not because he hurried, but because he didn't need to. You are learning how to seal the jar. Approval chasing is a leak, not a moral failing, an energetic one. It drains presence before presence has time to settle. When you close that leak, your attention gains mass. Your words gain consequence. Your absence becomes noticeable, not because you withdraw, but because you no longer disperse. Women feel this first. Not consciously, instinctively. They sense when a man's center of gravity is internal. When his interest is not a plea but a choice. When his attention is not offered to buy safety, but extended because it's earned. This doesn't make you distant. It makes you precise. You speak and you stop. You look and you look away. You don't overstay moments. You don't underline your meaning. You trust that what is solid does not need decoration. There's a power reversal that happens here, subtle enough to miss if you're still hungry for it. When you stop chasing approval, you stop negotiating your value in real time. The evaluation dissolves. The field equalizes. And without announcing it, you step out of the marketplace entirely. That's when curiosity replaces certainty. She wonders instead of decides. She pauses instead of predicts. The interaction no longer moves toward a conclusion. It deepens into a space. And space, when held by a composed man, becomes gravity. This isn't strategy, it's alignment. You didn't learn a trick. You shed a dependency. And as it falls away, something ancient takes its place. An internal order that doesn't ask the world who it should be. Stay with this. Because the next turn in this journey reveals why this inner shift doesn't just change how women respond. It changes how life itself begins to arrange around you. You start to notice the rearrangement before you can explain it. Not as luck, not as coincidence, as pattern. Doors don't swing open dramatically. They hesitate, then yield. Conversations don't escalate, they resolve themselves. Situations that once demanded effort now respond to restraint. You aren't pushing less. You're being resisted less. This is what happens when your internal hierarchy reorganizes. Most men live externally ranked. Mood responds to feedback. Direction bends toward reaction. Value rises and falls based on how it's received. They don't lack strength. They lack a center. And without a center, everything pulls at once. You've stepped out of that gravity well. There's a moment, small, almost forgettable, where you catch yourself not correcting a misunderstanding. The old instinct flickers. Clarify, explain, secure alignment. Then it passes. You let the misunderstanding exist, not as a test. As a truth filter, the ones who lean in stay. The ones who needed reassurance drift. Nothing is lost. What replaces explanation is coherence. Your actions line up without narration. You don't need to be understood immediately because you understand yourself completely. And self-understanding broadcasts a frequency that can't be faked. You walk through a familiar place and realize your body moves differently. Slower, but not hesitant. Deliberate, but not stiff. Your gaze no longer searches, it selects. You aren't conserving energy, you're directing it. That's when you realize urgency was never ambition. It was anxiety disguised as motion. Women sense this shift the way animals sense weather. Not through logic, through atmosphere. The air around you carries fewer questions, fewer hooks, fewer silent negotiations. Your presence isn't asking for engagement, it's allowing it. And allowance changes the terms. There's a scene that plays again, but differently this time. She speaks, you listen. She pauses, waiting for you to fill the space. You don't. You let the silence breathe. Something inside her adjusts. She continues, not because she has to, but because she wants to. The effort is voluntary now. This is the quiet transfer of initiative. When you no longer chase approval, you also stop competing. Competition assumes scarcity. You don't feel scarce. You feel sufficient, and sufficiency is disarming. Machiavelli understood this without romance. Power, he wrote, is most stable when it doesn't need to announce itself. The moment force becomes visible, it's already compensating for weakness. You don't posture. You don't withhold. You simply remain unmoved. That's why resistance dissolves around you. There's nothing to push against. Your emotions still exist, but they're no longer in charge. You feel interest without attachment, disappointment without collapse, desire without urgency. Each emotion passes through you like weather across a mountain, noticed, respected, but never mistaken for direction. This emotional hierarchy does something rare. It restores polarity without effort. Polarity isn't created by dominance. It's created by contrast, stillness against motion, certainty against fluctuation, containment against overflow. You don't generate attraction. You stop neutralizing it, and life notices. Men speak differently around you. They don't interrupt as often. They listen more closely. Not because you demand respect, but because your reactions have weight. When you respond, it matters. When you don't, it matters more. You've become selective without being exclusive, present without being available, engaged without being invested. This is not detachment, it's alignment. There's a temporal loop you step out of here, the endless cycle of action, reaction, adjustment. You no longer recalibrate yourself based on outcomes. You calibrate outcomes based on self-command. That's when the future stops pulling you forward. You meet it where you stand. Notice how little you're explaining now, how rarely you justify, how your decisions don't seek consensus. This isn't arrogance, it's authorship. You're no longer a character reacting to the plot. You're the one setting the pace. Women respond to this not because it flatters them, but because it frees them. There's no emotional labor required to stabilize you, no guessing games, no pressure to reassure. Your steadiness gives them permission to drop pretense. And that honesty, raw, unforced, is the real attraction most men never reach. You didn't learn how to be desired. You learned how to be intact, and intact men don't chase outcomes. They shape environments. Stay with this, because the final turn reveals the cost of this power, why most men never hold it, and what it demands from you if you intend to keep it. There's a cost to this position, and it arrives quietly. Not everyone stays. Some people were attached to the version of you that needed feedback, that adjusted himself mid-sentence, that offered reassurance as a way to stay connected. When that version disappears, the bond loosens. Not out of conflict, but out of incompatibility. You feel it first as space, then as absence. And this is where most men retreat. They mistake the withdrawal of noise for loss. They confuse calm with emptiness. They reach backward, not because they want to return, but because they fear what this stillness might demand next. What it demands is authorship. When you no longer chase approval, you lose the excuse of reaction. You can't blame outcomes on misunderstanding. You can't hide behind effort. Your choices become clean. And clean choices expose intent. This is why power is rare. Not because it's hard to obtain, but because it removes ambiguity. You begin to see yourself as others do when they stop projecting onto you. Clearer, more defined, less available for interpretation. That clarity creates distance for some and gravity for others. Women who are used to emotional noise find your quiet confronting. There's nothing to fix, nothing to soothe, nothing to pull. Your presence doesn't ask them to manage you. And without that role, they must decide who they are without it. Some lean in, others step away. Both reactions confirm the same truth. You are no longer participating in unconscious dynamics. There's a moment, subtle but decisive, when you realize you're no longer waiting for signals. You act when aligned. You withdraw when misaligned, not to teach a lesson, not to provoke response, simply because coherence has become non-negotiable. This is where discipline turns philosophical. The Stoics spoke of inner citadels not as isolation, but as sovereignty, a place no external force could invade without permission. You've built that place not by force, but by restraint, not by withdrawal, but by selection. You choose what enters. That choice changes how the future approaches you. Opportunities no longer announce themselves loudly. They appear tentatively, testing your consistency. You don't rush to meet them. You observe whether they hold their shape in your stillness. If they do, you engage. If they dissolve, you let them go. Nothing feels wasted. There is a scene that marks this transition, even if no one else sees it. You're offered something you once would have taken immediately: attention, opportunity, affection. The old reflex stirs, then settles. You feel the alignment check happen inside you before the answer forms. And when you decline, it isn't rejection, it's accuracy. That accuracy sharpens you. You start to feel the difference between desire and impulse. Desire has patience. Impulse has urgency. One deepens you. The other scatters you. You no longer confuse the two. Women who meet you here don't feel chased. They feel seen, not spotlighted, but recognized. Your attention doesn't cling. It lands. And because it lands rarely, it lands fully. They sense something ancient in this. A man who is not trying to become, but already is. A man whose desire doesn't destabilize him, whose interest doesn't dilute him, whose presence doesn't require maintenance. This is the difference between attraction and alignment. Attraction flares and fades. Alignment endures. Alignment is quiet agreement between nervous systems. It forms when one person's center is solid enough that the other doesn't have to compensate. Around you, people exhale without realizing they were holding their breath. That exhale is trust. And trust is built faster through consistency than through intensity. You're no longer intense. You're consistent. Your days begin to feel ordered. Not rigid, intentional. You wake without scanning messages for meaning. You move without checking reactions for confirmation. You speak without over-editing. You rest without guilt. This inner order bleeds outward. Small things align. Timing improves. Conflicts resolve before they escalate. You aren't lucky, you're congruent. Congruence has a momentum of its own. You still feel fear, but it no longer commands you. You still feel doubt, but it no longer directs you. They exist, acknowledged, then released. Your actions answer to something deeper now. Principle. Principle is the quiet governor of behavior. It doesn't argue. It doesn't negotiate. It simply holds the line. When principle is intact, respect follows, not demanded, not requested, but granted as a matter of orientation. This is why people treat you differently without knowing why. They sense that you don't need the interaction to go a certain way. And when outcome pressure disappears, authenticity becomes safe. Masks drop, games end, reality steps forward. You meet people as they are, not as they present. That alone changes everything. You realize then that approval was never the reward. It was the currency of compromise. And once you stop trading in it, your life simplifies. Fewer negotiations, fewer entanglements, fewer explanations, more depth, more silence that doesn't feel empty, more movement that doesn't feel rushed. This is the quiet advantage, the kind that compounds, the kind that doesn't announce itself, but leaves a trace everywhere you've stood. You didn't learn how women respond. You learned who you are when you no longer ask to be chosen. And that, whether anyone notices or not, is the position that cannot be taken from you.